The following has been put together for your viewing enjoyment. I hope you appreciate the effort that went into making this production. I currently work as a stripper, and make these videos in my spare time, although stripping does take a lot out of me on a day-to-day basis. Please subscribe so that I know my efforts are not in vain. Hugs and kisses. If you could advise women of one thing for their future relationships with a man, what would it be? Actually get to know the person before you have kids and or get married to that person. I would do before you have first time sex. I start most all of my relationships with being a hookup/FWB first, because if we're not sexually compatible, there's no point in wasting both of our times. That's just me though. I agree. Sexual compatibility is very important for a healthy relationship. If the two parties can be adults about having sex, then there's no issue starting the relationship with sex. You can't read his mind any more than he can read yours. I've been with women who have overanalyzed my behaviors and thought they knew exactly what I meant and what I thought without even considering that they may be wrong. And they were wrong a lot. Society says that men don't understand women, but I find the reverse to be even more true. Not understanding something is one thing, being certain that you understand something when you don't is worse. So absolutely this. Actually communicate. None of this I stopped doing, chore around the house hoping he would recognize it needs to be done, but he didn't notice, so now I'm angry at him. Words. We need actual words. Spoken, written, and agreed to. We don't do hints. You're going to feel the need to change him. It's not going to work even if he agrees to it. You're setting yourself up for failure. Love him as he is or don't get into a relationship with him. People can change. It just has to happen naturally and on their own accord. No one can change another person. Be willing to meet more people, and also be willing to get rid of them when the red flags start showing up. Don't sink tons of time in relationships with a broken person. This is the identical advice I would give to men meeting women. Probably he won't change. Think about it. If every man you've ever dated is a toxic asshole, your choice in men is the first problem. My mom needs to know this. She's dated 2 men only ever and got married to both. One had bad OCD that used to fantasize about murdering people. The next, my dad, is bipolar. She's called the police on him so many times, and even once after he did things to me I did too. They're getting divorced soon and he's moving back to his home country Israel. Second divorce then. Don't try mind reading or expect him to mind read. Don't assume you know what he means by something or what he's thinking just by subtle cues that you think you may have picked up from him. Don't read into what he's trying to say. For instance, if he says something and there's 10 different ways of interpreting it and one of those ways is negative, assume he did not mean the negative way because he likely didn't. Don't put words in his mouth or try to assume you know what he's thinking or how he feels about something. Ask him and don't just assume it. If you want something, be direct about it and don't drop subtle hints about what you want because he will ignore them, if he even picks up on them at all. Communicate what it is that you want, what it is that's bothering you, etc., and be very explicit about it. I hear all too often about how women try to drop hints to their so and he doesn't pick up on them and they interpret it as him not caring at all. They're just not picking up on them, so don't use them. Men mean the shit they say. If he says I don't want anything serious or I'm not ready to date, don't count on him to change his mind. Because odds are, you'll be hurt, and you'll have nobody to blame but yourself. Be honest, always, even if it will hurt him. You don't have to kill him with word, but don't fear back to say stuff that has to be said. Give some of us a chance. Some of us don't fall into the rich, good-looking, confident or happy buckets, but with some help we might. It's probably only 1% of men but could be high reward. Throw all your lists away. By list I mean, he has to be 6 feet tall, make over 100K a year, drive a nice car, own a house. Don't give up on someone, or worse still not give someone a chance because they don't measure up to a fictional person. Our men love it. This is dumb. People are allowed and should have standards. Your examples were obviously over the top, but ensuring a guy is financially stable and has characteristics, traits that you find conventionally attractive is not unreasonable to look for when finding someone who you're going to spend the rest of your life with. Of course, I'm pointing out the obvious. I'm not going to type out a novel. My point is, even if you find everything you are looking for on paper, it might not work. To be fair, I'm not suggesting going out with every smelly three-eyed hobo, but don't be rigid. It's just as easy for Prince Charming to turn into a frog as the other way around. If you're not sure about it, don't waste their time. Men are simply not as good at reading body language as you are. Stop using languages we don't speak. Men speak a different body language than you, and you can't necessarily read men like you think. Men have had years of covering every ounce of emotion to fit into society. They aren't as simple as you might think. Do not go into this thinking it'll be like the books and Netflix series. We will disappoint you. And you'll disappoint us even more for wasting our time with cheap, fabricated expectations. If you want to start a relationship, maybe mention that and ask the guy out instead of shooting your shot by thinking about them and never speaking to them until 5 years later in a Bed Bath & Beyond when you're both in a relationship, even though he had a huge crush on you too, but he can't do anything about it now. Oddly specific advice is specific. Always remember that you don't have to settle for a shitty relationship just because someone tells you that's what all men are like. You can get almost anything you want from a man if you ask the right way. That your partner should never, not even once, treat you worse than you'd accept from a stranger. Don't expect more from someone than you would expect from yourself. Man or woman, goes both ways. If you want him to understand what you are asking, don't hint. Don't assume he knows. Tell him, simply and clearly, exactly what you want. Try not to change a man, and for God's sake don't complain about his family. Sex doesn't mean love. No, I've seen it firsthand. Be an independent person from your partner. I'm surprised not to see something advising her to watch how and what she says in comparison to the standards she has against a man. Most women I've been with have been utter hypocrites when it comes to this. For example, if you say something out of anger, expect him to be able to do the same and not just put up with you shooting your mouth with no comebacks. He can't read your mind. And you will never change him, so don't go into it with an agenda. Never put a man, or woman, but the question is gender specific, in a position where he has to work a job that makes him miserable because you need the money as a household. Men really do need positive attention. Compliment your man, we are not so hard inside. This only time it happened for me was when I brought it up what I needed. As soon as I didn't bring it up daily, it stopped. It was rather upsetting that I felt I had to beg, initiate for my own compliments, attention. Yeah, I noticed one day that my BF had started asking me if he looked handsome, if I was happy with him, stuff like that, especially on date nights when he had put in a little extra effort. I took that as my cue to start laying it on a little thicker. No reason for him to question whether or not I think he's smart/capable/thoughtful/sexy. So now I tell him basically every time it crosses my mind. Dang, good on you for picking up on that cue. He probably appreciates that a ton. Right. It be those small-ass uninitiated comments that mean the fucking world to some of us. It's such a small effort to be like, hey, you look good, or you're appreciated, or you made this fun. But apparently it's extremely hard to do, find. And this makes me really sad. It shouldn't be so hard to compliment your man. I mean, we do it for our women all the time. If men started to get more positive reinforcement, It really would mean the world to a lot of us. Notice your man put in a little extra effort on date night? Let him know that you appreciated that, or him, or appreciate whatever he did for you. Why is this so hard to come by? I genuinely only ever met one special lady who was like this, and she was my absolutely best friend for a long time, because being around her was a real pleasure. It is really hard to find. The woman I am currently interested in, I had planned a special trip for her and our dogs. After I dropped her off at home, all she said was, "I had fun with you this weekend." And we have maybe spoken to each other a total of 30 minutes in the last 24 hours, after talking quite often prior to this trip. It's heartbreaking. It took 5 years of being married before I realized that I had never gotten a compliment. Once I did, I decided to wait and see if it would ever happen without asking for one. 8 years later, still nothing. I don't even know if she finds me physically attractive or not. It's never been brought up one way or another. This hits close to home. Even the most supportive and caring woman I have dated rarely complimented me to my face. They would talk me up to friends or family and I would hear about it secondhand. But is extremely rare that my girlfriend will tell me I did something good. It still confuses me why this is the case, that the extremely thoughtful, caring, and emotionally intelligent women in my life didn't think to or didn't feel comfortable giving a compliment directly to me. A few weeks ago we went to visit my wife's family in her home country. While her aunt, who is genuinely one of my favorite people I've ever met, even before this, told me she liked my smile. That was the first time, in 29 years, anyone has ever told me that. And she said it again a few days later. I will cherish those moments forever. I hear what you're saying. Too often my girlfriend, when living together, would harp on about what she feels, how things affect her, etc. Never once did she ask how I would feel about certain things. Only what I think. Thoughts and feelings are different. If you liked this video, don't forget to click subscribe, hit the golden bell icon, and make sure you have notifications enabled on your account. Mizreddit.